This is the state of the nation. Ibifa Mubanga. We are deliberate, we are reasonable, we are uncensored. The state of the nation with Henry Sally. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are seeing me from. I'm joining you today to talk about a few issues that are happening in our country. My name is Henry Sally, and I'm privileged to serve you. I have one question that I hope we can address together. What happens to a generation that makes its mothers cry? What happens to a generation that incarcerates its doctors? What happens to a generation that undermines the human rights of its legal fraternity? What happens to a generation that silences its journalists? The Honorable Dr. Maria Matembe has been charged with promoting sectarianism. Apparently, the High Court has addressed Dr. Besigye's concerns about harassment, we know Timothy Kalegyira has been arrested or incarcerated. And we also know that the Lord Mayor Emeritus, Elias Lukwago Salongo, is in hospital. He's bedridden. It's not just the Lord Mayor that is bedridden right now. Even the Honorable Dr. Miriam Matembe is not well. She's a senior citizen of Uganda. She has been missing for almost a week. She has been produced to court and readily charged for promoting sectarianism. There's many more things that are happening in Uganda today that need to be addressed, not by none other than you and I. I want to thank and commend Uganda Law Society for the good work that they are doing, for representing Dr. Miriam Matembe. I know they are hosting a space on X right now, so if you have some time, please join them. I also want to commend Dr. Stella Nyanzi and all other comrades in the ecosystem who are standing up to talk about these things at such a time as this. There's many that we are going to talk about. Dr. Stella Nyanzi has joined me today, and her and I are going to be interrogating some of these issues, figuring out ways on how to keep our governments in check. Our government in check. I say governments because I'm not sure how many we have right now. Are we under the government of General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, or are we being governed by the government of General MK? How many governments do we have? Do we have governments running concurrently in the same country? Who makes decisions? Who decides who gets incarcerated? Many of you might have seen a letter from the third general, General Saleh, to Norbert Mao, who is governing Uganda right now. Who is governing Uganda? These are not rhetorical questions. These are questions that we must interrogate and interrogate closely. I want to welcome my comrade, Dr. Stella Nyanzi. Dr. Stella, thank you so much for joining me. Tonight, I know I called you at short notice, and I appreciate that every time I call you, you always avail yourself to come and discuss pertinent issues pertaining to our country. So thank you so much. How are you doing today? What are your thoughts on what is going on right now? I know you are probably overwhelmed because everyone is calling you. Everyone wants to know what you think about what's going on in our country and what we must do to ensure that people stay vigilant, but also confident that they must not be subdued by fear of whoever is trying to take over our country. Dr. Stella. Okay, Dr. Stella is probably still a little bit caught up. I think she's still on X. She's going to be joining us in about 9 or 10 minutes. So I'm gonna continue with those questions for now. When she comes back, I'll bring her up. But I want to encourage folks who are watching this to comment. If you'd like to join us on Space, send me a message and I'll send you the link where you can join us and be live along with us so that we can share what is going on. What should we do as Ugandans? Where is our country going? For those of you who have not been in the loop, if you're watching us and you're not sure what I'm talking about, I'm going to share a little video from that talks about Dr. Matembe, or shows Dr. Matembe being taken to court. It's kind of an emotional video, so bear with me. Bear with me. That's the video of Honorable Dr. Matembe being taken to court. It is clear that she's frail. She's a senior citizen. We had no idea where she was for the last couple of days. Her husband has been crying out uh, to the authorities to let them know where she was. But there's another one that I'm going to show you, which is from the Uganda Law Society, who are trying to represent her. I'm going to show you that as well, so that, and then after that, I'll invite Dr. Stella to give me her thoughts, what she thinks about what's going on right now, what we must do as Ugandans to keep vigilant, but also encouraged to speak, even when it's not easy to speak right now. What must we do as Ugandans to stay vigilant and to keep the government accountable, because Uganda is for all of us.
Senior citizen Honorable Matembe was presented in court. She was produced here. Senior citizen Honorable Matembe was presented in court. She was produced here at Kalegyira and charged with
sectarianism.
Yeah, promoting sectarianism, which church she denied, of course. And our concern was her health. We tried to apply for bail, but the magistrate says it's late. She cannot hear the bail application today. She can only hear that tomorrow because time has gone. We, considering her health condition, we prayed that the magistrate should order that she is taken to a medical facility, to a hospital for today, where she should be treated because she needs specialized care. Incidentally, even the state attorney did not object to that prayer. They equally have a medical form on their file, which shows that her condition is not good. Unfortunately, the judicial officer, even after hearing this application, with no objection from the state, insists that she must be sent to prison and brought back to court to hear all those applications. Our concern really is that we talk about the police to prison pipeline. It's like our judicial officers who are told that every person who appears before them must be sent to prison as a must, which is something we really need to break as a country because it is sudden.
Do you think who is giving that orders? Do you think...
we can't say much about that. We really have no idea, but that was a judicial officer.
Thank you so much.
So you now all know that even after a case has been made that she's frail, she needs to be taken to hospital to see her doctors, the magistrate decided to send her back to prison. This is the country we are living in, and her crime is really to speak out and speak her mind on what's going on in the country. Dr. Stella, thank you so much for joining me here today. What are your thoughts? What's going on in your mind? How are you keeping up with the numerous stories that are happening right now in Uganda's political landscape?
Hi, Henry. Thanks for organizing the space. Yeah, I mean, Uganda has become one of those places where there's just a lot happening. How am I feeling? I think very similar to Ugandan women who are critical of the current military coup, the military dictatorship of Yoweri Museveni and his monarchical prince, the brutal Muhoozi Kainerugaba. I am saddened and enraged as well, and also really traumatized as a woman in Uganda who grew up, became a girl really when the Museveni 1986 takeover, coup d'etat was happening in Uganda. And we celebrated for a long time Museveni, the revolution, thought in terms of women's emancipation in Uganda has been Dr. Miriam Matembe. She's been on the scene for a long time, a very long time, you know. When people talk about women organizing, I think that Miriam Matembe's face is among those that are easily recognizable. She's not a young person. She's 73 years old, and she's our leader. We've grown and we look up to her as a mother, an aunt, a grandmother, but really one of the matriarchs of women's organizing in Uganda. She's stood for women's emancipation, girls' emancipation. She's been very critical. And today, I watched women in Uganda, adult women, youthful women, younger women, breaking down and crying, wailing loudly, holding their faces, shaking with pain or grief or rage or disbelief as Dr. Miriam Matembe stepped out of the police truck that brought her from wherever she was, detained illegally, to court. An elderly woman in her 70s comes out of detention limping. Every step she makes is painful. Her face is visibly swollen. Her mouth contorts with pain. And she's unwell. The cameras roll and we are all glued onto our screens and our computers and our phones watching this humiliation, this degradation, this obvious signs of torture walking in the body, embodied within Dr. Miriam Matembe. And we watch other women crying. We watch men too, standing in solidarity with her, shaken visibly. This is unacceptable, Henry. It is unacceptable. They sold us a narrative of women's emancipation. They sold us a narrative of bringing women to the center of political decision making, participating, representing women, participating in the corridors of power. They said they gave us voice. They sold us the promise of an empowered Ugandan woman. And in many ways, Mama Miriam Matembe represents that for us. To see her beaten, subdued, a body in pain, begging a magistrate to release her on bail. A 73-year-old Ugandan woman leader begging is unacceptable. It is unacceptable because of the degradation they're doing to us. They're taking away our voice. They're taking away our strength. They're taking away our emancipation. They're taking away our womanhood. They're taking away our ability to think and criticize, by undoing the power behind Miriam Matembe. The military dictatorship wants to undo women's power in Uganda. And as a woman, I'm saying it's not acceptable. Yes, we are in pain. Yes, we are traumatized. Yes, we are ashamed. Yes, we have been humiliated. Yes, but it is not acceptable for us to stay there, a beaten, downtrodden people. I think part of what we must do is to come together with our pain, because I'm traumatized. I'm very traumatized. The emotional battering we've gone through the last few days as Ugandans, the last few weeks, actually the month of June has been very brutal in terms of the non-stop beatings we're receiving from the military coup managers. And part of what I would like to summon is courage, coming out of the rage and the pain and the fear, courage to resist, to continue resisting. Miriam Matembe has been a voice. If they silence her voice, we must become a million voices, reproducing, replicating, echoing, even reiterating what Miriam Matembe would have said, right?
You talk about keeping the voice out loud, staying vigilant, keen, but also not being silent. I want to share a video of Miriam Matembe sharing, like keeping her voice heard, even in her situation where she is right now in court. I'm going to share that. It's traumatizing, but I think it's important for people to see what's really going on, and hopefully they can better understand that even when you're in your comfortable house or office or wherever you are, it's important that you keep speaking, because silence is not an option. When you choose to stay silent, there are so many other people that are going to be damaged because of your silence. So we must keep speaking because it's the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do. I'm just looking for that video so that I can share it with all of us.
The human heart, where has it gone? Where, I know my back, it is not the doctor who knows it, it is me. And my people know, that's why they were upholding me. I cannot be on those things even tonight. I was thinking when they thought they were bringing me home, I would go to Serajim, they had to go to the back. I cannot, madam, you can't kill me tonight. I'm not running away, I'm a Ugandan citizen, I'm not, oh my God. Have human heart and allow that I go either for scan tonight or I go to that thing where it can at least the machine is there for one day. How can you just want to kill me like this? I can't imagine. The laws are laws, they are not human beings. The laws procedures don't have a human heart. And you see me here, and you know that all these are lies. But you want me to, at least I was saying, I can say it again, even when I was suffering, I said that at least I used to shoot you once, at least breaking, honestly, shattering me to pieces like this. And you are here and you can't allow me to go. If you want evidence, let me go for scan. We shall pay for the scan. And in fact, me, I was going to ask anyway, the machine has also gone. You just can't see me like this. And you say, where is evidence? Evidence which cannot be seen from the very person. Does it come from paper? Evidence.
That is senior citizen Mama, Honorable Dr. Miriam Matembe, a former Minister of Ethics and Integrity, an advocate for women emancipation, a historical herself, crying because the magistrate seeks evidence, seeks to see evidence that she's not doing well. So this is the country that we are going to. This is the exact same. These are the exact same excuses that were given when Honorable Salongo Elias Lukwago, the Lord Mayor Emeritus, wanted to go to hospital. He still wants to go to hospital. At least now he has been taken to Molago, but that's not where he usually goes for his checkups. What comes to mind when you see Dr. Matembe in that state?
Look, the Miriam Matembe is crying and begging because of what has been done to her by those who abducted her, right? She's not crying because when she left her house, her home, she was well. We have, the last time we saw her speaking, she was speaking quite strong. She may be elderly, but she's not been unwell. She hasn't been in pain. So the pain she has comes from, we know who have brought her onto her knees in pain and begging. So there is that narrative of the begging, crying, pleading, appealing, grandmother, mother, aunt. But we know her to be a joyful person. Okay? A lot of the videos that circulated when she went missing were of Miriam Matembe dancing in church, dancing with civil society organization activists who organize with her, dancing publicly, unashamedly, dancing with joy at someone's wedding to take a wedding contribution, etc., etc. And so she is a joyful person. Even when she's been a fighter, she's been a fighter who fought with her voice and also brought joy to situations. This pain, we have to identify who is hurting Uganda's women, Uganda's leaders. We have to be able to name our oppressors, the people who are violating our voices and bringing us to our knees. And in this case, it's her abductors, the people who took her away. That's one thing for starters. I think for me that the other interesting thing really is around the fact that even when she is in pain, even when she is facing an unjust magistrate in an unjust court, going through an unjust judicial process, Matembe is not silent. Even now, she is speaking for herself about her issues. Even when she could have kept quiet and yielded and said, okay, they've told me to go to Luzira. I've been remanded to Luzira overnight because she's coming back to court tomorrow. She could have yielded and said, okay, let me just go away. But we still see Matembe speaking, challenging, explaining, questioning, saying, no, this is not fair. Questioning when you want evidence, what sort of evidence are you asking for, And if Matembe is not silent now, even when she's in the belly of the beast that's brutalizing Ugandans, what about us? What about us who are in the country and we have a measure of liberty? What about us who have not been arrested, abducted, taken away as yet? What about us who are not? Why can't we speak out if Miriam Matembe, she's just come out of an abduction chamber. We don't know where she was. She went through a police that just got her. They accepted without questioning the brutalization she went through, the injustice she went through. They just received her and spat her into the court system. But even now she's questioning. So if Miriam Matembe can be questioning during this moment of crisis, she has to go to Luzira. I've been to Luzira women's prison, not once, twice. And if she's never been imprisoned, it's the worst thing that can happen to a woman of her generation. Elite women in Uganda really fear the prisons, leave alone us cantankerous activists. Prison sort of had become our default positions. But she's begging because it is shameful in Uganda for a woman, especially a woman of the middle class, a woman who's been a leader, to end up in prison. But prison is going to be our destination. It's part of what we do when we are organizing resistance against the state, against military dictators such as Museveni and his son. Matembe has never been to prison. But even as she's being dragged, frog-marched to prison, she's screaming. Her voice hasn't been silent. And I think for me, I draw courage. I draw courage from her voicing even now, even though it's a painful cry, begging and pleading. I think so in terms of responding to the bailing of sick bodies, not even sick. These are bodies that have been broken during illegal detention. Whether it is Miriam Matembe, Dr. Miriam Matembe, or it is Counsel, Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago, Salongo, or Kizza Besigye, or there's been a long list of Ugandans or Eddie Mutwe, when Eddie Mutwe came out of the basement, a long chain of people who are abducted violently. They go through traumatizing torture. They come out broken. And I think part of part of what we see changing is the court decision which questioned the Human Rights Enforcement Act, in which a suspect who is brought in with visible or reported signs of having been tortured or persecuted, the decision that says it's no longer viable or feasible or practicable to dismiss any proceedings against them must be questioned, because to take away those protections of the Human Rights Enforcement Act means that our broken bodies, brutalized bodies, beaten bodies will come from these abduction chambers, these torture chambers that are run by the military facility, whether we call them the basement or safe houses or Nalufenya or the fridge, as Museveni said recently, that we shall come out broken and the court's power to intervene has been taken away. The Human Rights Enforcement Act, I think the decision was this month, no? Either this month or last month. It's a very recent decision. Taking away that protection means that torture can happen in the basements and the courts will just process us and spit us into prison for the long durée, you know. How many months has Kizza Besigye been in prison unjustly without trial? Yeah. So in terms of Miriam Matembe ending up in Luzira Women Prison, hey, they're now penalizing Voice. I don't know if you have a copy of her charge sheet, Henry, but I was looking at it and it is absurd. It is totally absurd because I think they tell us her age. She's 73 years old. She's a Munyankore, and then she's charged with sectarianism against Banyankore. Yes, I mean, you have it here. I mean, her details are given. Miriam Matembe, female adult, age 73 years, a Munyankore by tribe, businesswoman, and residence of Luzira. But in terms of the particulars of the offense, so the offense is promoting sectarianism. And maybe I could read the particulars if that's okay with you. Or do you want to read the particulars?
Yeah, you can read the particulars. No worries. Go ahead.
Okay, so in the month of June this year, in Nakawa Division within Kampala District, through DKTV Uganda platform, which is online, made or uttered statements to wit that all our taxes are being spent on the Banyankore women ministers, which statements are likely to promote hostility, hatred, or ill will against members of the Banyankore tribe. And the magistrate hasn't signed this off, but at least we know that one of the DPP's office, Leno Anguzu, maybe, signed their name against this charge sheet. Now,
Right.
for me, I think in terms of problematizing what's happening, yeah, what's happening really is utterances, speech that was made publicly, criticizing, interrogating, questioning, condemning,
Right.
misuse of taxes, misappropriation of taxes, right? What is being criminalized right now is voice. That Miriam
Voice.
Matembe,
Yeah.
yes, voice.
So that's really a field of questioning, because she has always questioned the integrity, ethics, right? So
Yeah,
when she
she was
talks
a
about
minister of
that,
ethics and integrity. Yeah.
she was Minister of Ethics and Integrity. So when she talks about what is happening in her country, she's not like being sectarian, as they say, but she's questioning why is this being allocated to this.
And who appointed her? Who appointed her as Minister of Ethics and Integrity?
The government.
The government. But who was the appointing officer? Museveni.
Mr. Museveni. Yeah, Mr.
The
Museveni.
dictator,
Yeah,
the military dictator appointed her, recognized her as a woman of ethics and integrity, and we saw it through her Christian morality that indeed she practiced a particular form of feminist moralism around making people accountable. So what Museveni once rewarded her ministerial appointment with, in whatever season it was, maybe the 90s, has now become the basis for her criminalization. Like, where's the logic? If it was her ethical stance on the use of the public funds that we have, the use of taxes that we have, the use of government revenue, if that was her duty to question and to ensure that there was integrity in the use of public funds, at what point does that become a crime? What was once a virtue, when did what was valuable become criminal, a crime in Uganda? I think for me, we have to interrogate this, the overturning of what was logical. It is now illogical to question misuse of funds, right? To question tribalism, to question nepotism, because what Miriam Matembe is saying, as a Munyankole woman herself, because they tell us on the charge sheet, she's a female adult aged 73 years, a Munyankole by tribe. They say it at the very top, I think the second line of the charge sheet. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
But they're saying that which statements are likely to promote hostility, hatred, or ill will against members of the Banyankole tribe. So are they saying that Matembe is now coming against her own people?
I know.
What
Which
are
is
they
ironic.
saying to us?
That's a paradox in itself.
No, very similar to when Muhozi refers to Eddie Mutwe's experience in the basement as learning Runyankole. There's something that's happening, a vulgarization of what it means to be a Ugandan Munyankole, because Banyankole are Ugandans, and they don't owe any. They're not indebted to the dictatorship. That they must not criticize the dictatorship simply because they're Banyankole. I know a number of people from Western Uganda, Banyankole, Bachiga, the Bahima, all of them, who in fact are suffering as much as oppressed Ugandans are suffering. They don't have enough, they don't have incomes, they don't have jobs, their lands have been taken away, they don't have political power. And they're also isolated by very many other Ugandans because we think they're eating with the Musevenis. Now, Miriam Matembe, for me, represents the Munyankole who is conscious and knows that Uganda belongs to us all and is using their privileged position and proximity to the ruling family to criticize. And I think she's being penalized for not using her privilege to endorse oppression. This is why she's being criminalized. One, her old age begs respect. Right? If Museveni is Jajja, Matembe is also Jajja. If Museveni has Bazukulu, Matembe has Bazukulu. And maybe because she's a woman, women in Uganda recognize Matembe as a Jajja. And you can't take her away from us. While we're being forced to accept the patriarch or the patriarch as Jajja, we embraced Matembe for ourselves as a mentor for women feminists. Yeah? And I think the last thing I wanted to say in terms of that charge sheet is that in addition to her voice, her critical voice, the use of public media, social media is also being criminalized. And this has got reiterations, or it echoes what is happening with Daily Monitor, with Spark TV, with Dembe FM, and with KFM. Yeah.
And Timothy Kalegyira.
Timothy Kalegyira's case. I mean, if you bring up Timothy's charge sheet as well, Timothy was disappeared from I think he'd gone to Fort Portal for his birthday, and he went missing. People in his estate remarked that he was missing, and then he ends up again in Chira Division Police Station, and before we know it, he's being charged. Now, Timothy's charge is broadcasting without a license via his Kampala Express. I mean, we can read the particulars if that's of interest, but maybe not. So here, there are two counts. The first is broadcasting without a license contrary to the Uganda Communications Act. And the second count is broadcasting without a license Yeah. So two counts of the same charge, really. Um, what I found shocking for me is Timothy. Timothy's sort of in the same league as Andrew Mwenda. While Andrew went off course, Timothy stayed on course. While Andrew became a regime apologist, making sense of the regime, whitewashing the failures of the NRM dictatorship. Timothy, on the other hand, remained critical, remained very much interested in archival work, bringing together the history of particular situations with the current, comparing within and without Africa, but very much grounded in bringing questioning power, the abuse of power in Uganda. Now, Timothy Kalegyira's problems with the state because of his voice are not new. But I think for me, what is shocking is that while we used to complain about the Computer Misuse Act, that had been the basis of a lot of silencing of digital expression, they're now going for all sorts of other. It's now contrary to the communications. What was it? The Communications Act or something.
Act, yeah, Communications
Um,
Act.
but again, what are they coming after? They're coming after digital-based communication, because Kampala Express, Timothy's medium for expressing himself generally runs online, right? And I think for me that, yes, we see the shutting down of traditional media, the newspaper, the television, and the radio, but concurrent, we see also the shutting down of critical voices with, those who have a reputation of being honest, critical, and factual as well, that they are coming after them as well. And I think that we must be those of us who are dissidents, those of us who are critical, those of us who use these online spaces as citizen journalists, we must protect our turf because the military coup managers are coming after it. And I think my disappointment was with people like Alan Kasuja and Andrew Mwenda, who are part of the hierarchy that was introduced as being the leadership of Patriotic League of Uganda, the fact that they're long-term journalists, people who've been trained in Uganda's best institutions, they've practiced journalism for the people. Of course, one went to the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company in London. That was Alan Kasuja, and he was there for a long time. I used to be very proud of Alan Kasuja, David Bachibinga. There were a number of Ugandan journalists at the BBC. And then Andrew Mwenda, who is a veteran journalist, in fact, part of the legal cases, the judicial cases that inform free speech in Uganda are cases in which Charles Onyango Obo and Andrew Mwenda and other journalists based at the Monitor were getting into trouble with the state. And in Onyango Obo and others, that's like a foundational, important, seminal judgment that protects, a precedent was set protecting freedom of speech, including criticism of the state. So for Andrew and Alan to be in the hierarchy of Muhoozi's Patriotic League of Uganda, and in the very same moment, we see a shutting down, a sharp, severe beating down of press media freedom, of digital speech, of digital freedoms, digital rights, is unacceptable. Like, if anything would mobilize those of us who believe in free speech, free expression in Uganda, if anything would mobilize us, if anything would help us organize and come together and give us our voices, now is the time. Because I think, as Comrade Egesa said on Sunday, they are coming after the institutions, the civil society organizations, the public media organizations, the women's movement, even parliament. the lawyers, the legal fraternity, the professional associations, the medical association, the journalists association. After they're done with that, they're going to come for individuals. And if we don't begin practicing speaking out, speaking strongly, just keep speaking consistently, persistently, repetitively, even speaking for ourselves, our rights, demanding, speaking back, resisting. If we don't start practicing the muscle of speaking back now, when we still can, they're coming for our voices. They
And
really are
as
coming for our voices.
and as you talk about speaking out, I think this message has been captured not just by people on the peripheries, us people who are on social media, people on the ground have also started coming out. Even people within the State House establishment itself have started coming out. There's a video or communication I saw that was created by the in-law, the brother-in-law of the CDF, talking about the governance of Uganda. And of course, he might have his own interests, but this is what he had to say.
I want you to know that freedom does not always beget freedom. It sometimes breeds anarchy and a resurgence of what is in the foundational DNA. There were also groups inside the movement in the last elections, dressed up in military uniforms, beating up people, invading polling stations in some of the constituencies, shooting and dispersing voters, and then openly doing ballot stuffing. Some of these scenes were extremely disturbing for me to watch. Other people lined up others and paid them to vote for them. No independent choice at all from citizens, some of the citizens in our area. This is what happens when we undermine or when we lack a central uniting idea and we.
Now, of course, that's Audrey Rawogo is talking about what happened, what transpired in the last elections. He's talking about the inconsistencies in the governance of our country, and is encouraging citizens to actively question what's going on. Is also encouraging people within his NRM establishment to reform. Now, of course, we all know that he likely has his own interests as a human being, but as popular people, most people say, actually, as Tamale Mirundi used to say, Tamale Mirundi Senior, even a faulty clock is correct once a day. So this case is correct. I think what he's talking about is what exactly is happening, and I think we need to figure out a way to become more vigilant and become more open when we are discussing how we are being governed and how we must keep our government accountable. Well, what are your thoughts, Dr. Stella?
Yeah, I mean, two things come to mind. I think the first is that for a long time, Ugandans have criticized the Museveni family, the in-laws, the friends of nepotism and family rule. Yeah. I mean, it has become a song that the wife is or was, who knows, a minister of education. The son is the commander of the defense forces. One daughter is now in charge of the public media campaigns, the loose social media campaigns of the father. Another daughter is a pastor running around and making the parents ask for forgiveness. The brother to Dictator Museveni is the de facto vice president running around with military men and money and taking over all the operation wealth creation, and infrastructure building. So the in-laws, whether it's Kalegyira or Lukwago, or and we see them again, we see their faces featuring prominently in PLU. But we've had these complaints about family rule and its entrenchment and the extension of the dynasty for a long time, which General David Sejusa talked about and got into trouble. Now, one of the ways in which these relatives, friends, and in-laws can sort of save themselves is to begin speaking out for Ugandans and with Ugandans. I know that the motivation for Lukwago is not innocent, because he's a political player too. He's a political animal too. But in the case of all the violations, blatant violations that are happening, particularly through a Christian military family, these Christian family members must speak out. Otherwise, their silence is deafening. And so the way I would read Lukwago's statement could be that is what we need. We need them to speak, because our own voices are being taken away. If Salim Saleh stands up and says, Salim Saleh stands up and writes a note and says, it is not the way to go, because we have systems and institutions in place through which redress should happen. But maybe the only intervention we can now have is for these family members, these in-laws, these friends, to speak on behalf of Ugandans, because there's a very thin line between if we go down, they go down. I mean, one of the sayings I love from Bobby Wine, I don't love a lot of what he says, but one of the few sayings I love from him is this idea that in a sinking ship, no one
is safe. Yeah,
no one is safe. There's no safety for anyone in a sinking ship. And if they are in Uganda and Uganda goes down, because it's going to go down when the people come together and put up effective resistance that's sustained, when the ship goes down, they will go down too. Saleh's property will go down too. Okay. Muhoozi, another comrade who is usually in our spaces, says quite often that when Museveni leaves, Muhoozi will leave too. He'll be on the next flight out of Uganda. And I think for me that, so one of the things I could reclaim and repossess from the Odrek moment is to appeal. And I don't make appeals to the first family, but appeal to those who have proximity to the military power that's running roughshod over Uganda, to begin speaking on behalf of Ugandans and speak for Ugandans, because these issues are their issues too. If Uganda doesn't work for us, it will not work for them. When the people, when we start eating, we're going to start, we're so poor, they're driving us into so much oppression and poverty and lack and impoverishment and lack of power, that we're going to come and eat them. We're coming for them. And when we come to eat them, we might spare those who are speaking out on our behalf. Right? But the other thing I wanted to say now for me is the problem with appealing to those who are close to the first family to speak on our behalf is exactly where they want us to be. They want us to normalize family rule and nepotism. They want us to run to Salim Saleh when we want intervention. And that is not acceptable, because what happened to the institutions? But we already see this culture becoming normalized, because when musicians and artists and ministers and journalists, when Ugandans, even professionals, medical doctors have problems, they tend to run to the first family, they tend to run to Salim Saleh to intervene to the brother. Now, this then sort of normalizes family rule and nepotism taking over the running of institutions in Uganda, in democratic running. Yeah. And I think for me that if we are to charge Miriam Matembe for sectarianism, we should also charge every member of the first family, including the in-laws and friends. We should charge them with nepotism, charge them for using their proximity to the first family to begin speaking for us, to begin eating on our behalf, to begin stealing from us, and they get away with it. The law is not catching up with them. And we should charge, as Ugandans, we should charge and indict Muhoozi for then imposing military rule simply because of his proximity to the father. And I think that is what I would take from Audrey Rabogo's posturing. It's a posturing which we could maybe utilize to work for us who are organizing in the resistance. Who knows?
I must say that it wasn't just him who spoke out. Even his wife, the pastor, came out and spoke. Although she was very implicit in her message, but
what did she say? I never listened to her. What did she say?
Oh, she was telling us that Uganda is at a critical moment, and that we need to make sure that governance is managed well. I don't have the exact words, but I think I'll share it at another.
But that girl should not be talking to Ugandans. She should first talk to her father and her brother and her mother, if the mother is still living, and all the in-laws and the military. Ugandans,
we are sure that they are listening. Maybe she's speaking to the father. Maybe she's speaking to the brother as well. The question is whether they are listening. Is the father listening? Is the brother listening? What more can they do, given their proximity to power? What more can they do to ensure that these folks who have tangible power listen to them and actually implement some of their thoughts? Because you're right, she has to speak to the father and the brother first, because these are the people that are oppressing Ugandans directly and indirectly. So if she's going to come and speak to us or send a message to the international community, implicitly talking about the bad governance in Uganda, she has to first and foremost speak to the members of her family. But I want to share another video from Genotinye Fonza, similar, something that you alluded to in your explanation earlier, that landed him in trouble. And this is an old video, but it pretty much says a lot of stuff that is happening in Uganda today.
Thinks he can't go. Of course, Mr. Museveni will go. There's no doubt about it. Because Mr. Museveni was brought by the people. Mr. Museveni, when you hear he went with 27 guns, he didn't have the power. He was housed by the civilian population. We were eating raw corn. When Obote soldiers would pass, we would cover ourselves with dry banana leaves, a sanja. This is how weak Mr. Museveni was. This means Uganda can heal. NRM itself needs salvation. The battles they have inside. I was inside there. We are more frightened than you people who are outside. When we are in NRM and in that army. I spent 5 years in that army. I could never eat in a hotel. I could never attend a function and take a soda because I feared poison. MPs don't eat in their canteen. No. People don't drink water, even when they go to these big men's functions. Everybody carries his small water in his jacket. This is the country we are living in. Ask your ministers when they are called for state, for cabinet meeting. And you come and you tell us everything is okay. It is okay. It is okay when a member of the high command, when we are going to meet everybody, packs a chapati in the pocket. From Busa. It means there is a serious problem in the country. It means there is a serious problem, which we need to resolve. But people do not understand that. They think everything. If the people, we who are inside the army, inside cabinet, inside the parliament, cannot trust each other. You cannot serve me tea and I take it. Forget about other things. Then how can you build a country now?
That's a very important question. How do we build a country in a state that he has described? Because even though that video is a couple of years old, I feel like it demonstrates everything that is happening in the country today. It speaks to the events that are happening in the country today. If you have been following X, I think the new Speaker of Parliament is also worried about what's going on in his space. This is the new Speaker of Parliament, and whatever he has insinuated is happening to him, I mean, qualifies what Tinyefunza is speaking about right now in this video, right? What are your thoughts about Tinye's message to Ugandans and to Mr. Museveni?
Yeah, I mean, what you said is true. The video is a little old. What's interesting for me is when he initially revealed, I mean, actually, maybe I should say it this way, that the first time, or one of the times, the earlier times when the Daily Monitor was shut down was because they published his letter in which he talks about the dynasty and Museveni preparing the way for Muhoozi to take over. Now, when he said that, a lot of Ugandans did not believe, right? And part of what is interesting for me is how much of a prophet he was. But was it prophecy, or is there an actual plan, like a plan that was hatched in the days of revolution during the Bush War to rule us for 50 years? Otukalakata emyaka atano. Was there an explicit plan?
Right.
And if in fact there was such a plan, I think for me, as a person who's been in the resistance for maybe a decade or a little more than a decade, that we seem to just be catching up with the military coup. We are just catching up. That is why we are surprised when a grandmother is denied bail and ordered to go to Luzira Women Prison overnight, even when we know she's innocent and she's just facing trumped up charges, anti-sectarianism. But in terms of so moving on, so the first thing I wanted to say is David Sejusa Tinyefunza was in fact spot on. I don't think he was a prophet. It seems to me that there was always a plan for this Chwezi dynastic rule. It began as a rumor. It began as the mad rambling of military men, but we are seeing it unfolding right before our eyes. And I think part of the extension to that is the videos and photographs and discussions of Muhoozi's son also being enrolled at Sandhurst. But that's one part of the conversation. The other thoughts that came to mind concerning the video is the paranoia and suspicions in the country. We don't trust each other. And the fact that they don't trust each other in the NRM, in the PLU, in the military, that's okay. Let them divide themselves up with mistrust. That works for us. But what I want to talk about is how this mistrust and paranoia is also fragmenting and affecting us in the resistance, whether we call ourselves opposition political parties or we call ourselves civil society organizations or, the resistance. That the same lack of trust has kept us divided and disunited, and it paralyzes our organizing, right? When we should be coming together to work together on resistance, we are also struggling to trust each other because of this paranoia. And perhaps what we should do now is to find ways to come together despite the mistrust, despite the suspicions, come together with our pain. the pain we all get when we watch Miriam Matembe and Elias Lukwago and Kizza Besigye and Mufumbiro, and Sauda Madada and Yasin Machete and Achileo Kivumbi and Eddie Mutwe and Sam Mugumya and all Ugandans in the opposition, in the resistance, who are critical of what's happening. When we watch them, the pain we feel when we think about all the political prisoners, all that disappeared, the pain we feel when we think about tomorrow, if that could bring us some unity to organize and reorganize ourselves. Maybe those are the lessons to take. And I think I want to thank you so much for organizing the space. Of course, there is the small issue in which we see the military calling for a bargain if Susan Sibira should be fired and other editors of newspapers, the Daily Monitor and NTV should be fired, if Muhoozi is to have a discussion about the reinstatement of the public media houses that were closed. Again, for me, what all these different situations highlight is a very unkind, brutal, arrogant, anti-people military machine that's rolling out a takeover of the systems and institutions of governance in Uganda. So thank you for organizing the space, Henry. Amidst all the pain, I think it helps for me to come and sit with you and get some thoughts and coherence around what's happening. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, it's always a pleasure when we convene and talk about these issues. I think it's important for us to continue having these conversations, even amidst the intimidation that is happening, even amidst the injustices that are happening to our comrades. A lot of stuff is going on. We haven't talked about Dr. Kizza Besigye. Today is June 30th. We know what the court has said about his case. We know what's happening to the Lord Mayor Emeritus Elias Lukwago. So it's always, I think it's always a good idea when we convene, talk about some of these issues. Of course, there's so many other spaces where people can convene and discuss and deliberate and try to unpack what's going on in our country. How do we make our country the Pearl of Africa? Because I'm not sure it's appropriate to call it the Pearl of Africa in the state that it's operating right now. The Pearl should be really a paradise, right? But when a generation does not respect its seniors, when it makes its mothers cry, when it incarcerates its doctors, when it incarcerates its legal comrades or criminalizes, when it criminalizes advocacy, when it criminalizes journalism, what kind of generation is that? And I think I want us to continue contemplating on that question. I want to encourage folks who are listening to us, who are seeing us, who are watching us, to contemplate on these questions. I want to send my appreciation to Moses Felix Okwanyi, who is always following us and commenting. Moses, I want to encourage you to think about joining us in the studio and sharing your thoughts so that people can get to understand what you're talking about and what you advocate for as well. But it's always a pleasure to have you, Dr. Stella. Thank you so much for always availing yourself during such critical moments. So it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Henry. Thanks for creating the space.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, Dr. Stella.
This is the state of the nation. Rifa Mugwanga. We are deliberate, we are reasonable, we are uncensored. The state of the nation with Henry Salu.